Alrighty, folks, let's jump in the time machine. Let's go all the way back to 1 May 2017 when Ashes of Creation was first doing their Kickstarter. You will see here in an interview with Justin from Massively Overpowered. What was Steven going to use the money for from Kickstarter? I intend to use those funds to bring on additional team members who can focus on building the game, as well as include certain systems that I think will fit well into our design. I am primarily self-funding the project, but if necessary, I have made some very good friends in my previous endeavors who are dying to invest. We jump a couple of days forward, interview with Bree, story from Bree. This project is being funded by myself currently. This is going to be a bigger game content-wise than Crowfall, and our budget and funding reflects that. Sounds good. Let's jump ahead again to March 7th, 2019. Steven was asked about funding for game development. Steven says, most software development banks will not leverage as they don't like that risk. Usually outside funds are raised through venture capitalists because they are risk orientated. However, it isn't something I have done. And then finally, in a response on May 20th, 2021, Steven talks a lot about being hurt about the lie that he was involved in making his money through multi-level marketing. But the important line I want to grab out of here is, I'm funding the project, so no investors. Sounds good. Gives us a baseline. We've got our base statements here that show us when what was said. When Intrepid formed as a corporation. They have Inc. in their name, which is reserved for corporations. And the Articles of Incorporation allowed for the issuing of 10 million shares of common stock. Very common for startups. They want to have equity that they can sell for capital. Interestingly enough, in February of 2017, before the Kickstarter, Intrepid Studios took a $1 million loan from Yaya Legacy Trust. This was now a creditor, not an investor. They are not an investor yet. $1 million at a 5% compounding annual interest rate. It also allowed Yaya Legacy Trust, if a payment date came due and the payment was not made, they had the option to convert the due payment into equity at 0.275% on each payment, up to a maximum of 2.2% of the common stock of the company. They also had a subsequent investment clause that allowed Yaya Legacy Trust to invest an additional $1 million. Later on March 9th, 2018, this promissory note was actually amended, and in the right to convert, you will notice some key language. It changed the common stock to preferred stock of the company. You will notice in a letter sent to Intrepid Studios on March 5th, 2019, pursuant to the note and amendment, my client hereby formally gives you the notice that is decided to exercise its conversion rights in these documents, such that as of the date of this letter, Yaya Legacy Trust is now a 4.4% shareholder of Intrepid, with such stock being preferred stock of Intrepid and having the anti-dilution provision at the valuation of Intrepid as of February 23rd, 2017. So as of March 5th, 2019, Intrepid did have investors because the creditor exercised rights. Also interesting enough, on August 21st, 2019, there was a sale of 44 or 53 more preferred shares. And also it's interesting to me that they're still talking about the convertible promissory note dated February 23rd, but the Yaya Legacy Trust had already done their conversion. So what should have happened is a convertible promissory note, the Yaya Legacy Trust exercises its conversion rights, Intrepid Studios would issue the proper stock certificate, which would then discharge that promissory note. So I don't know, and Intrepid never had to file any paperwork in the lawsuit because it was dismissed. I don't quite know what Intrepid's perspective was. I do know that if we take our original timeline and we add in this $1 million loan, again, I want to foot stomp, that $1 million loan does not mean Intrepid has investors. It means it has a creditor. I do find that on 5 March 2019, though, they did have investors. Now, again, the investors that they had weren't venture capitalists. So the comment directly below doesn't automatically become false because the Yaya Legacy Trust isn't exactly venture capitalists. Here, though, on 21 August 2019, with 5.3% of the corporation sold, with as much as 9.7% of the company in not Stephen's and not John's hands, there were investors. Unless Intrepid has a different version, when somebody owns shares of your company, they have invested, they are shareholders, they have voting rights, they have a say, they have a vote, a voice. And then on the 14th of June, 2024, the Yaya Trust lawsuit versus Intrepid Studios, sandwiching that no investors comment in between a period that you had investors and a period where you had investors. Now, if this was the end of the tale, that would be one thing, but there is now another UCC filing against Intrepid Studios by the Yaya Legacy Trust. And what a UCC filing does, in a nutshell, is it basically gives you a spot in line to say, hey, you owe us something. If you go bankrupt, we're in line already to claim assets. Now, I'm not going to go too far into this UCC, but I do want to point out that a shareholder already has a claim to assets, and a UCC indicates some other structured deal. So, in the spirit of discussion, I'm just interested if Intrepid Studios, Stephen Sharif would like to unmasquerade the truth about the investment situation, because it seems like now the story doesn't line up in a good timeline fashion. And since we always want to have transparent development, maybe Intrepid could talk about why they denied an investor access to financial documents. If you want to know more details, there's a link to a written story in the description below.